So today Thomas and I are going to replace the transmission pan gasket on his 190D 2.5. This is a really easy job, and we're also going to show you the basics of the transmission service. So the best place to start is obviously with the right tools. For this I'm going to need a 13mm socket, an extension, and a 5mm Allen key, as well as a ratchet. And our first operation is going to be draining the transmission using this little drain plug here at the back. This transmission's got about 150,000 miles on it, so we're going to deal with some of the fluid leaks that come up, and one of the main ones is the transmission pan gasket. Gaskets are a simple rubber gasket. They fit over the top of the transmission pan. They have a sort of square profile, so they slip over the top. You do not use any sealant with them. And obviously, they are easy enough for a do-it-yourselfer with basic mechanical skills to change. Once I'm done draining the bulk of the pan, I'm going to put this drain plug back in. When you're working down here, to be sure to set your bolts aside in a clean place. Try not to submerge them in transmission fluid or drop them in your drain pan. And when you're down here, always try to use an open drain pan, so in case you do drop a screw or a bolt or something, you'll have easy access to it.
Stopping.
The pan is coming off, and we're going to look at this thing and figure out if we had... It's a good idea to dump all the extra fluid out, but we're going to look at the pan gasket now and see if we had some kind of tear in the rubber here in a second. Looks like we might have had a case of the dirties where there was some dirt in between the pan gasket and the transmission pan, or the transmission body, that was causing our leak. Anyways, we examine the pan gasket. What you're looking for splits up here at the top, which will undoubtedly cause a leak. You're also looking inside this seam here to see if there was anywhere that fluid was passing through. And this area right here, which is sort of, it's cut away a little bit, is always suspect. But when I pulled this out, it seemed like this section here was a little bit dirty, and we had a lot of fluid there. So hopefully that's part of the problem. Rear carbon, this pan's actually pretty clean, but when you see stuff like this gray material here, you know that those are carbon deposits, graphite deposits, and you want them to go. So we're going to start by cleaning out the inside of our pan with this wonderful 3M brake parts cleaner. This is some of the best stuff on the market. It cleans very effectively, and all you need to do is rinse off the corners with the brake parts cleaner. Now, if you see all that stuff, that's the stuff you want to keep out. Now, another thing that really helps is turning the pan upside down and cleaning off the oil and debris that have gotten under there. And then finally, we're going to go back under the car a little bit later, and we're actually going to clean the lip where the pan seals up. Before you put it on, you might want to stretch it just a little bit, like this, like you're almost shooting a bow and arrow. And that way it will fit firmly on the transmission. Now you want to start off by matching up the corners. like so. And then you go to the sides where this thing can be particularly tricky. So now I'm putting the pan back on. And what I'm going to try to do around here where the neutral safety switch is, I'm actually going to hook it in place. There isn't really a lot of room here, but if you can just squeeze it in place and then do this, make sure that it's rubber contacting the surface of the transmission. Then one by one, I can start putting my bolts in. Now when you're putting these bolts in, first of all, start at the back and go up to the front. And then second of all, hand thread them at all times. If you do not hand thread these bolts, bad things will happen. What kind of bad things? Well, you could damage a thread in the transmission, which is not something you want to do. I've had to remove transmissions because of broken threads before, and no, it never gets easier. To ratchet than normal to put these in, but when you're tightening these, you really want to make sure you don't crush the pan, and I'm going to teach you how to avoid doing that. One of the reasons that people often do this job wrong is because they put too much torque on the 6 bolts that hold the transmission pan in place. So if we can avoid doing that, we're going to be much happier. Make sure you tighten all of the bolts till they're relatively snug. I'm not talking it all the way, just until you run out of thread and you start to feel a little bit of difficulty tightening. So make sure you do all 6 bolts first. So now that I've gotten all of these tightened, I want to make sure that they're torqued right. So I'm applying medium pressure on each corner here. I'm going to work my way up as I go until I feel a general resistance to the bolts not wanting to be turned. Look how I'm just using one hand. You want to use about as much torque on this as you would to maybe cut a loaf of bread or tie your shoe. But if you're using a torque wrench, you can use a setting of about 15 foot-pounds. But you want to feel some strain in one of your hands as you pull towards you. Look at how I'm using 2 fingers and I'm pulling until I feel a moderate strain. And then that way I know that my pan gasket is firmly compressed and that I'm not going to suffer any leaks later. So that when you change the transmission filter, you have a new seal ring there, because that can be a fantastic source of leakage. And in this case, in the 190, you want to tighten it until you just feel the washer compress, starting to compress, and then about 1/3 of a turn so that it's good and firm, and after that it should be fine. So we're here a month later after our replacement of the transmission pan gasket on the 190D 2.5. So far we haven't completely cured our transmission leak, but we've slowed the fluid loss rate down to about 4 ounces over the course of a month. Now this will show up on the 190D dipstick because the margin of error on it is so tiny. It's actually 3 ounces. If you're at the full mark and you lose 3 ounces of fluid, it won't show up on the stick anymore. So I think our next stab is going to be a new transmission pan because it's warped. However, our careful installation of the pan gasket along with a new kickdown solenoid, has reduced the fluid leakage by about 75%. We were having to add a half a quart a week to this transmission, and now we're adding maybe 4 ounces over the course of a month. Thanks. Have a great day, and please tune in for more how-tos. Please send us your questions, and if you want a how-to procedure of your own, subscribe to our channel and ask us for it, and we'll give it to you. Enjoy driving your Mercedes-Benz, and thank you for tuning in.